Hey y'all, it's Amanda. Welcome back to my channel, and we're gonna do the final video for my March wrap up. Let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, so March was a really good reading month. We had middle grade March Mystery Madness, and I was finishing up books from around the world in 80 days, which I don't think there's any books that I read in March that go to this, or maybe, I don't know. But I do have some updates on it as well. So, okay, 3 good readathons, and I'm here, okay? So, I've been participating in so many readathons at the beginning of the year that April, I'm taking a little break from it because in May, I'm going to have my Southern Readathon, more details to come in the next week or so. But let me just kind of wrap up the stats and everything for March. How about that? We'll do a little section of that first. Both videos for my week 1 and week 2 wrap up, link down below and in the cards. This is going to be the last couple weeks in March wrap up, but for the whole month of March, I read 20 books. Get it, girl? We love to see it, which middle grade are very short, so that's the only reason that happened. Lots of audiobooks, all the things. And so I do have some stats here. So out of the 20 books, we had 9 middle grade, 4 romance, which 3 of those were Christian fiction and 1 was secular, 5 mystery, and 2 romantic suspense, which both of those romantic suspense were Christian fiction as well. So, a well-rounded reading month, and we're just going to dive into these prompts so I can wrap up the prompts and tell y'all what book went with each prompt. And again, reviews for the other books that are not talked about in this video are linked down below in the first week and second week wrap-up, but we're going to go ahead and talk about the prompts here. So for March Mystery Madness, we had the spring cleaning theme, and we had messy, lather, rinse, and repeat. For messy, that was personal life of the sleuth is a mess. Let's just say that. And I'm going to talk about these books in this video, but I read Colleen Coble's books, you saw in my vlog, but Edge of Dusk and Dark of Night, those are Christian fiction, romantic suspense, and I love them. But, honey, Annie's life, her life is a mess, so, honey, we had to go with that. Her personal life, crazy, it's messy, but she figuring everything out. I love her character, and just all the different twists and turns her life is taken, it's messy. So, that's the one I picked for it, but actually both of those. And for Lather, clean up. So, like, you know, they're cleaning up, maybe they're cleaning up corruption, or there's a cleaning theme in the mystery, and that was driving derelicts. What's it called? What is it called? I messed that up. Sorry. Deserts, Driving, and Derelicts. Okay, book 2, After Beaches, Bungalows, and Burglaries. So, yeah, in this book, we had she had a cleaning business. Yeah, Bets had a cleaning business, and our main character May was helping her with it and all this stuff. Okay, so that's the one I picked for it. Then for Rinse, that was a cozy mystery or a classic. So I read several cozy mysteries, but the ones I'm going to put here are A Cracked Spine, or The Cracked Spine. What is it, honey? See, titles. The Cracked Spine by Paige Shelton. We're going to talk about that in this video too. And Murder in the Mystery Suite by Ellery Adams. I already talked about that in another video, so both of those are very cozy. And 4 was Repeat, like a repeat author. So, you know, I said Driving, Derelicts. No. Deserts, Driving, and Derelicts. Okay. That's how this is going to go. So, and then Pulp Friction, right here, honey. Book 2, After Apple Cider Slaying. I already read this author before as well. So, both of these authors.
On the web.
Apple Cider Urban Dictionary. You know what? I couldn't make this stuff up. Okay, stop it, Siri. All right, these 2 authors I've read from before. We ain't gonna make it in this video. All right, I just dropped a book. Okay, and then for middle grade March, we had so many great middle grade books. I've purchased a lot of middle grade, so I have several on my shelf now that are in a new TBR pile, so I'll probably read some of those. If not this year, definitely next year for middle grade March. But the prompts were an award winner, not a Newbery, okay? So I picked, which I ended up purchasing this because I loved it so much, but A Kind of Spark by Ellie McNichol. This had a neurodiverse character as well, a young autistic girl. This book was a nominee for several different awards, the Snyder Family Book Award. It was an honor book. and the Waterstones Children Book Prize, not actually that's an award that it won, and then the Saltier, I don't know what that, I'm saying it wrong, Scottish First Book of the Year, a Society Literary Award nominee. We'd love to see it. This was such a great book. So yeah, I talked about this earlier this month. So, and then sci-fi / dystopian. So I'll talk about it in this video, but that is Please Return to the Lands of Luxury by John Tilton. This was a book that the author reached out to me and asked me to honestly read and review, and I really enjoyed it. Very, very good middle grade, and it was kind of that dystopian vibe because it's a different type of world and everything. So yeah, we'll talk about that later in this video. And then Sky or Sea on the cover. I ended up with Hatchet. I did read this, so yeah, Hatchet had the sky on the cover. And book published in the last, no, sorry, I'm skipping prompts. But book with a neurodiverse character. And I love this prompt because y'all know my son's autistic, and I absolutely loved reading books about autistic characters this month. So we had a kind of spark, had an autistic character, focused, your girl's got ADHD. So yeah, I ended up purchasing this. I had it from the library, I bought it. So through my son's book fair. When the mom's using the book fair from the kids. Okay, I'm just saying. Anyway, for her own books, okay. Forget Me Not. I didn't really enjoy that book, but it did have a character with Tourette's in it. And then A Boy Named Bat, had that from the library, and he was autistic as well. And so 4 books of neurodiverse characters, and I love it. And then prompt number 5. Y'all don't expect nothing else, do you? Book published in the last year, and the Please Return to the Lands of Luxury was recently published by John Tilton, so that's a recent release. And then Honest June, number 2, honey. We're going to talk about that in this video. See, I can't talk. This video as well, number 2. Yeah, that's all the stats and all the details, and it took a few minutes, but hey, we wrapped up on those 2 readathons. And the final thing I want to say is about the Around the World in 80 Days readathon. This was hosted by Holly from Love a Day with Holly, Miriam from Mary Melissa with Reads, and Anne from Anne with a Book. And I really enjoyed picking out books for this, and really in January and February is when I read most of these, but you had to read a book set from each country that Phileas Fogg visits in the book Around the World in 80 Days. I didn't watch an adaptation like I hoped to. Who's surprised? But I did get to read books for some of the countries on the list. So England, I read Set the Stars Alight. France, I didn't have a book. Italy, I didn't have a book. Egypt was The Cairo Curse by Pepper Basham. And Yemen was Around the World in 80 Days, which I guess you could say Around the World in 80 Days for the other ones I didn't have a book for, but hey, it's fine. India, didn't have anything. Crazy Rich Asians for Singapore. I ended up DNFing that book. I was at like 20% in. I just wasn't feeling it, so I returned it to the library. China, I didn't have anything. Perfect World, manga, the series there. Japan, that's what I read for it. And then for USA, Something Old, Something New by Amy Clipston. And for Ireland, The Maid of Valley Made Cool by Jennifer Dibbles. 7 out of the 11 countries you girl did. So we love to see it. So that's all the stats and everything. So let's dive into the final books that I read this month. I have 9 books to talk about, so I'm super excited. So let's go. So the first book I want to talk about is Autumn by the Sea by Melissa Tagg. I finally finished it, and I loved it so much. This is one of Bailey's favorite books from Bailey's Bookshelf, and I'm so glad that I read it. I'm so glad so many of you told me about Melissa Tagg anyway, ever since I started my channel, and I really want to read more of her books. Can't wait to dive into book 2 because I need to know. I meant to I meant to pick that book for a TBR in April, but I don't know, I may pick it up. I'm kind of mood reading in April anyway. We'll just see how I feel. I gave it 4 to 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. And the first 50% of this took me a little bit to get through. Several weeks. I just wasn't wanting to pick it up as much, but I still really enjoyed it because the last 50%, y'all, was what? Insane. How much more than your typical romance. We have Maggie Muir. She is trying to find her long-lost granddaughter. Her daughter had passed away many years in a car accident, and the granddaughter was never found. And so this search is leading her to all these different women, but they finally find Sydney Rose. And nobody really knows 100%. You can't just do a typical DNA test like you would think because because Maggie's daughter was adopted. And so she had all these different adopted children, and you're seeing all of the past with Maggie as well as you read through this book. But there's this guy named Neil, and he was never formally adopted, but he was part of their family ever since he was a teenager. And so he's a Scottish guy, and I love that, right? You already knew. And I mean, there wasn't a lot of Scottish vibes 100% with him, but like I could still see it, and I really liked that. Sydney ends up going to Muir Blueberry, I can't say this word, Muir Blueberry Farms. Okay, moving on. So that's the whole thing on here. Is there's this big farm, and so much found family vibes in the story. Loved it. And so they're just trying to figure out, is Sydney really Maggie's granddaughter? And, you know, we're seeing all this investigative stuff. But then Neil is kind of going through his struggles as well, because he's kind of like the one who runs the farm, even though he's not really like an adoptive child to own the farm, right? But he is the leader of the farm. And so there's some financial struggles there with the farm, and he's just trying to like figure out ways to keep the farm afloat and all this stuff, but he isn't really telling Maggie. So there's all this stuff right up front that's like, whoa, lots of drama here. And the siblings do not really vibe with Sydney, because they've been burned by many different women that they've brought in thinking it might be the long lost granddaughter, and it end up not be, because people have ill intentions, right? So they don't know if they can trust her. The whole story goes on from there. Like, you know, you see Neil and her slow burn, getting to know each other. I loved it. And the ending was shocking. I did not expect the ending. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked the ending, but it really shows how the Lord brings Sydney into this family's life, and it just shows how they all really needed each other at such a time in their life, and I really enjoyed it. Then we read a book that I really enjoyed as a child, and I didn't even really realize there was more books in the series, so my bad, but hey, I kind of want to read the rest of them now. But Hatchet by Gary Paulson. This is a Newbery Award winner. I remember reading this as a kid in, I don't know if it's middle school or whatever, but I love this book. It really makes me realize now as an adult, I love survival stories. I read this so fast, y'all. Just a really great page-turning survival story. This is all about 13-year-old Brian Robinson, and he is flying in a small plane to meet his father, and all of a sudden the plane goes down because the pilot of the plane, it's a small plane, the pilot has a heart attack. Brian's like, I don't know what to do, and so he ends up, they end up going down, and he's able to somehow land the plane, but it's crashed in a way, so it's not perfect landing, but he's okay. Brian's scared to death, of course, as any 13-year-old boy would be in this situation, in the middle of nowhere, in the Canadian wilderness, mind you, with animals, wolves, bears, all this stuff, and he don't know what to do. And so all he has with him is his windbreaker and a hatchet that his mom gave. And so you just see his survival story take place, and it's very short. Brian's also keeping this secret throughout the book about his mother after his parents' divorce. And you know that pretty early on, that he sees his mother like dating someone else and his dad doesn't know. So he's keeping this secret within him, and even his parents are divorced, but his dad doesn't know that she's found someone else, seems like, and there's some tea in this, I guess, drama. And so it's just like he's continuing to relive some of that trauma that he experienced from his parents' divorce in this story. And so we see that, but I didn't care so much about that part. I still gave this book 5 stars. I really like the survival parts in this. Just such a page-turning story right up to the end, and I really liked it. So, a great middle grade. And then I have a new favorite cozy mystery, y'all, and that is The Cracked Spine by Paige Shelton. I'm so glad I read this. I am just... Yes, this was the Scottish cozy mystery series I needed. I had been reading some by Tracy Hall, and I didn't love them. I still need to read book 3 and 4, because I had book 4 on NetGalley of Tracy's books. But this one by Paige Shelton, I am here for this, okay? I think the characters and the romance in this is what I need in the other series I'm reading, okay? I give this 4 stars on Goodreads. It's really like 4.5. Truly. It was just so fun. It's full of Scottish dialect, cozy family, and bookish vibes, and just really great characters. This was a true Amanda book, okay? We see all these descriptions of Scotland, and it's just so beautifully painted that it really makes me want to be there. Right up there with Apple Cider Slang for me. I loved it. And this is all about an American woman named Delaney Nichols, and she answers an ad to work at the Cracked Spine in Edinburgh, Scotland. And she packs up and she leaves Kansas. So she's just like, hey, I'm out of here. So she's trying to find a new job. And so it's quite the journey. And the bookstore is one that I would love to visit in real life, because there's like all these things. There's a little dog, all this stuff, which you can see the dog on the front cover right here, honey. So there's all this cute stuff there. And the owner, he's an older man named Edwin, and he hires her to be a part of the bookshop. And things get crazy when I mean, she ain't even there that long, and Edwin's sister has been killed, okay? And so they're trying to figure out what happened to Edwin's sister. They know that she was into drugs and had a rough past, so they don't know if it's a drug deal gone bad. But the big kicker here is there is an old folio, Shakespeare folio, that's it, and it's worth a lot of money, and it's missing. There's the twist, okay? It's like, something ain't right. So they're trying to figure out where's the folio, what happened, who killed the sister Jenny, and the story goes on from here. But Delaney ends up sparking up a romance with the bartender guy across the street named Tom. Hey. So, I mean, he's got this, he's described as this handsome Scotsman. He's got a kilt. Okay. And so he's working across this, I think he had a kilt. Don't quote me on that. My memory, I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. But I knew I was going to love this because first off, the hospitality from the beginning when she comes into town was phenomenal. I hear that about Scotland anyway, so that was great. And then the romance was really nice because they're going on dates and just getting to know each other. And it's really nice because our main character really feels connected to everybody, kind of like they're her family. And I hear that about Scotland all the time. Just the type of people there, just very welcoming and all the stuff. So yeah, just a really great start to this series, and I am going to be picking up the next one. Y'all already know. And the next book I read, I don't have a copy, but I'll be getting one because this was a favorite book of the year for me, and it was such a surprise. I've talked extensively about this book in my tri-chapter vlog. I will link it down below and in the card and all the fun stuff if you've not seen it. But I ended up reading book 2 in the Daracot Tales by Melanie Dickerson, Castle of Refuge. And this is an Ugly Duckling retelling, and it made me realize I love retellings. Y'all, it was so good. It touched my heart in so many ways. This is set in the late 14th century in England. We follow 2 sisters, Audrey and Maris. And so they're the daughters of a Viscount, I think it was. Viscount? I don't know how you say the word. But their father pretty much expects Audrey to get married to this man, and there's like having a dinner and all this stuff with Edwin, who's supposed to be like the new Lord Daracot and all this stuff. And he was in the previous book, so you really need to read book 1 because there's some stuff I'm not going to say about him that happened in book 1 at the end that changed his life forever. And so I think the beginning of this book is before that happened at the end of book 1. So you see a little bit of that before that happened, and then we cut to 4 years later. But Audrey's dad wants her to end up marrying Lord Daracot, right? Well, things take a turn for the worse. Her sister Maris has a lot of trauma from her young life, and she just takes it all out on Audrey. And it's so sad because she forcefully trips her, makes her go into the fire, and she burns her face. Audrey burns her face and has scars from it. And so that's how the whole introduction to this book is. The first chapter is really just so sad because you see this sister is so jealous of Audrey and has so many problems, and you're like, what is going on? Why is she not like her so much? But you start to realize how much she blames Audrey for her own life, and she is just full of jealousy. So then we cut to 4 years later. Audrey has her scars. Her sister's nowhere to be found, but her sister's coming back to the castle. Her dad's wanting her to marry some guy she don't want to marry, and she leaves, okay? She flees the castle, and this is literally like the first few chapters, so no spoilers, but she flees the castle, and somehow she ends up getting sick, and she ends up passing out, of course, nonchalantly near Lord Daracot's place, and he takes her in and doesn't really realize who she is at first, and because she's trying to hide from her dad because she don't want to marry this other guy, and she's trying to hide from her sister because her sister's very abusive to her, and everything goes on from there as her and Lord Daracot kind of get to know each other, and things start to be revealed, and it's just a really great time. And I really connected this story because I already said it in my vlog that, I have a scar on my face, which y'all, I don't know if y'all can see, but right here. And I explained that whole story in the vlog of how it got there when I was a kid. I was like 8 or 9 years old, but I always felt so different after that, and I really related to what a lot of Audrey was going through from her scars. She would try to hide them. I was embarrassed as a child. Now I'm fine because I'm a child of God, honey. So that's okay. We're here. And I already explained that in that video, but I really related to a lot of her struggles in that, especially as a younger girl. So, and kids were mean, all that stuff. I already explained all that. But one of the quotes in here, I'll read it to you, was, "Their scars were not things to hide and be ashamed of. Their scars kept them humble, which was pleasing to God, and kept their hearts soft. And it was a bond between them that she was confident would never break." I'm here. Okay. Just the quotes, there's everything. And the faith in this was I'd say medium, light to medium, but I really liked the faith that we did get. Loved seeing Audrey just teach these young kids and just start to find her purpose in life, because she just felt so like less than for so long, and now look at her, right? Like, you start seeing her really come into her own, but then things start getting crazy as Maris starts trying to sabotage everything, and there's your story. So Maris, and you know, it's sad because Maris was such a broken character in this. She had all this personal trauma. She really needed help with her life and her mental health. And the reason is, it was right there at 5 stars. It's like 4.5 to 5 stars. I put 5 stars on Goodreads. It's really close. I don't feel like we got everything I wanted for her sister Maris. Like, I really wanted to see a little bit more explanation at the end. I'd love a short story, or like, I can't really say anything else like this, but I'd love more of a short story with Maris. Yeah, that's what I'd love, okay? Just to kind of see where she is now, okay? I will say I think Melanie Dickerson really knows how to write a good villain, because I was like, Maris, me and you about to throw hands, honey. Anyway, I felt like I have talked enough about this. Edwin and Audrey are one of my favorite couples now, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. I've already got book 3, borrowed from the library, honey. It's a Sleeping Beauty retail, and we're here. So, all right, next book. Sorry, I'm long-winded. All right, so the next book I read was Please Return to the Lands of Luxury by John Tilton, and this was so much fun. So I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. The author reached out to me to honestly read and review this, so he sent me an audiobook copy, and I just felt like it was a fun middle grade dystopian story. I think that this author would be great for kids. It's clean, and he told me he is a Christian, so that was nice to see. This isn't a Christian book, but it was nice to see like just a really good, well-rounded story for kids that's appropriate, you know, because there's so many books out there that are not appropriate for children, and I feel like this book really is. Like, I think any teenage kid would love this, 10-year-old, anything. I think they would love this, okay? It's just got great characters. It's a heartwarming story, has some great life lessons for kids, and this story is all about a young girl named Jane. She lives in a junkyard pretty much with her friends and a bunch of other people. One day, Jane finds a doll that is supposed to go back to this other place, and like, it's a just totally distant world from what I've understood. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's what it was. And so she's really determined to return this little doll back to its rightful owner, because it has a note on there that says please return to, and it has like a little place to return it to. So she embarks on this journey to find the owner, and she gets there, and it's like the owner is like not there, and it's like, this ain't the owner. And so some older man comes through, and then they end up realizing it's an older woman. She takes her in, and they're talking about everything, and they realize where she's from. And so you're seeing that side of the story where she's in this new world. But meanwhile, her friends Timothy and Rodney realize she's gone, and so they leave the world to go find her. And so they're embarking on a quest to find her, and boy, it's just a really big adventure, you know, a bravery, friendship, and doing the right thing, helping others. Lots of great themes. That's always something I have to have in a middle grade, and this book did it. And so I think the only reason it wasn't quite 5 stars is just because at the end I really wanted a little bit longer story and more of what happened after what happens at the end, kind of to see what happens. But I'd love another book if this was a series, okay? So yeah, I think that you all would really enjoy this if you like middle grade, and I think your kids would if they're into like dystopian type stories. So yeah, thank you so much to the author for sending me this, because I'll be on the lookout for John's future books for sure. Okay, and then we have another great story, book 2, Honest June, Baby June. Chrissy, I'm so glad that you introduced me to Baby June. We love this, okay? Y'all, you got to read this. June is always getting into some trouble, okay? So pretty much the whole thing of this is I read book 1, I think last month or earlier this, no, it was the first book I read this month. And so I gave it 5 stars, and this one I gave 4.5 stars. This continues to just be a fun series about sweet June learning what it means to tell the truth, okay? And what it means to have integrity and all the things. And so this whole story is June as she's going out for the main lead in the school production of The Wiz. June is still under her fairy godmother Victoria's spell that she has to tell the truth. And if she don't tell the truth, then she starts sneezing and having a sneezing fit, okay? And so uncontrollably until she tells the truth, okay? So honesty still remains a requirement for June, basically. And so she's constantly getting herself in a ton of trouble, y'all. But she's also discovering her own talent, learning what it means to do the right thing, and all this stuff. So yeah, she's discovering herself, we'll say. The ending of this had me like, what? It was so like, oh my gosh, June, you done messed up. So the tea, there was tea, okay? And I'm like, her and her friends, and like, there's just some drama. Just a typical childhood slice of life drama, okay? So yeah, I really like this, and there's lots of like kids, you know, her and her friends getting in fights back and forth and all that stuff happening, and you know, there's a boy she likes and stuff's kind of crazy with that. So yeah, it was just a good time though. I cannot wait to read book 3, and I've already got it, so may pick it up this month in April because they're always short reads and I need to know what happens, okay? So yeah, really enjoyed it. Another book I gave 4.5, but this one I rounded up to 5 on Goodreads is Imagine the Making by Jen Toronto. Y'all, this book, I have not really got a chance to talk about it in a vlog or nothing. I just said I really enjoyed it. So this was so good. We love a good matchmaking story, and this one does not disappoint, y'all. So there's a lot of humor. As usual with the Jen Toronto book, there's a lot of humor, great characters, and a story that's going to reel you in. And this is the second Jen Toronto book I've read, and I think I just really like her. Her writing style's fun. It's bingeable. The characters are funny. Lots of good witty banter, and it's sometimes you feel like it's over the top, but it's just what you want. You know what I'm saying? Like a great fluffy read, and she writes it so it's like kind of believable. It's like, okay. So yeah, I loved it. So we had this fun matchmaking story all about Gwendolyn, which I've read the synopsis of this on my channel twice now, okay? So y'all kind of know what this is, but we have Gwendolyn, and she's hired to find the perfect match for Mr., was it Walter Townsend? Yeah, okay, I got my notes here. And he's pretty much the catch of the season, y'all, but is the perfect match her? We don't know, okay? So it was just a really delightful story as they get to know each other, very like slow burn-ish. There's lots of humor, like I said. At first, you don't know if they're gonna like hit it off or not. Just the humor is what really makes this story, and it's just the kind of fluffy book you need. I really needed it after a lot of things that's been going on this week. I really needed it, and I found myself laughing out loud, very heartwarming. And the romance was really more of like a friendship building, I would say, than a true romance. It's one of those that, you know, there's slow burn, friendship, realization comes at the very end of the book. So if you're someone who wants more of like a heavy romance throughout the story, you're not going to get it here. But this, it was just like a delightful story to see that too, though. Like to have that friendship building throughout the story. Because the whole plot of this is Walter is needing a mom for his children, and they're unruly and all this stuff. It makes sense why they wouldn't have that, where the characters were like, oh, they're forced together as a romance. No, we're really, she's trying to matchmake him with other women because he's the catch of the season. That's what she's been hired to do. But his kids start to really like her. And it's like, is she going to become the mom? Like, is she the mom figure that they want? And so you start to see all this stuff come to fruition. And it's just really nice. So yeah, I laughed. I loved the kids. Every time the kids were on the page, they were funny. And I just loved seeing what they were going to get into next. So yeah, book 2 comes out this year, and I'll definitely be reading it. So yeah, really close to 5. This will probably be in my top books of the year as like an honorable mention because I really liked it. And these last 2 books are by Colleen Coble, Edge of Dusk and Dark of Night. And so I already talked a lot about this in a vlog, so yeah, feel free to go on if you don't want to see me talk more about it, but hey, we're still here to talk about it. So this was my first Colleen Coble book that I read, and it did not disappoint. So much fun. This is a recommendation from Oshina, and I had kept delaying the audiobook, but after she read it, it really encouraged me to pick it up, and I'm so glad I did because these characters are top tier, okay? Y'all, if you like romantic suspense, you're gonna love this series. We've got family drama, high stakes, suspects, crazy stuff happening. The tea is crazy. So this story is all about Annie Peterson. She's a law enforcement ranger. Her life changed forever when she was a younger child and her sister was kidnapped. And so we start off with that, and then we cut to when she's older. She's recently been through a lot of additional trauma where her husband passed away and her parents as well in a boating accident. And so she's really just been through it. You know, she's had a lot of hardships, and then they're discovering remains that have been brought up with old cold cases, and then a dead body with a new case, and investigations start taking place. And her first love, John, he comes back into town, but he kind of seems like a suspect in one of the cases. So it's like, what? So, you know, he's trying to like rekindle almost like second chance romance with Annie, and the story kind of kicks off here. And he's also trying to clear his name. I think I said that, but I don't remember. And I really just liked our characters, how fast paced this is. We've got lots of drama. Like Annie's life, she gets messy, like I said earlier in this video. I mean, I had to know. I mean, about 35% I had to know what was going to happen. I really like some of the light faith elements we had. It didn't bother me that there wasn't any more faith elements, honestly, because I just love the story so much. A lot of stuff with Annie's daughter here, who's 8 years old. Loved all the stuff with her. Like, by the end of the book, there was so much revealed that, guess what? Your girl had to read book 2. And book 2 started exactly where we left off. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. It's definitely going to be in my favorite books of the year because I loved it. I gave it 4.5 to 5, but it really was just like a 5-star book for me because I was just so invested, just like I was in the If I Run trilogy. I said that before, but it was just all the family drama at the beginning where it takes off, and then we have this other character come in, and I'm just like, what? Michelle, she ends up being kidnapped. We're trying to figure out where she at. And so John and Annie, they're still working out their stuff in their relationship, and he's just such a good guy, by the way, man. I just love him. He's such a great character. Then they're just trying to work together to find what's happening, but then there's some weird things happening. There's an intruder in Annie's house, and they're like, who's trying to get at Annie? It's all this suspenseful stuff that if you like a romantic suspense, you are going to love this. So I really like the faith elements in this one more than in book 1. It's still very light, but there were some things at the end that got me a little emotional. So yeah, I just loved it. So you will not be able to put this series down, I promise you. So that's pretty much it for the wrap up. This is a very long video because I was very long-winded. I don't know if I'm gonna cut enough out or if y'all just gonna have to watch a lot of me talking. So yeah, just very long video. Sorry I'm so long-winded, but let me know if you've read any of these books down below, if you're interested in any of these, all the things. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, y'all.